Record.
Hey friends, welcome back to the table, a church planning journey. My name is Trevor and I'm joined with some good friends today. We have another on the podcast, my buddy Ryan and our good friend Cody. And we are excited to talk about more than just the table, but church planting and how we are affecting the Arizona Nazarene district in a whole. And so you guys know Ryan, so why don't we start with our new guest. Cody, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you're doing.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Cody. I live in Surprise, Arizona. We just planted a church out here in the Surprise area. It's almost a full year, which sounds crazy. This February will be 1 full year since the moment that we started our pre-launch phase, which I'm sure I'll get into a little bit more. So about me, I don't know what else you want to know. I'm married. I have 2 kids, 2 girls, ages 6 and 3. I do work full time. I'm in the financial planning industry. That's about it. I don't know what else you want to know about me, but
well,
I'm an open book.
We'll dive more into
What do you do
who
for
are,
fun?
But
What's your
what do I do for fun?
What's your darkest fear? I don't know.
Darkest fear. I hate spiders. Absolutely.
Amen.
Cannot do them. What do I do for fun? I love playing games.
Does Amy
Board
kill
games,
spiders for you?
card games. She has, yes. That has happened a time or two. I also enjoy working with wood. So that's when my shop is put together. That is my external hobby. As long as fixing stuff, home remodels.
Love it.
When your shops put together, so does that mean that it's been disassembled for some reason?
It's a disaster. Part of church planting means your life is a disaster. And so my garage is a direct reflection of that.
I feel that. I have an entire sound system on the left side of my garage, so I can't park 2 cars, just one. Well, sweet. Well, it is exciting to talk with you tonight, Cody, and kind of peek behind the curtain on more than just the table here and to show others different examples of church planting, because what's great, I think, about our district and the Nazarene Church in a whole is that we have so many different models that we can plant. We can do a basketball church, a sports church, a coffee house church, your traditional model, your non-traditional model, your house churches. They're in full support of that, and it's exciting to have seen you find success in the middle of COVID, because you said it's been a year, right? So it's January 21st, which means that you planted before COVID.
Well, 1 month before it got bad in the U.S. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So basically the entirety of your plant has been in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's good. Well, before we go any deeper into that, let's do what we like to do here at the beginning and kind of, like I was saying just a second ago, peek behind the curtain, kind of give the people some raw insight into a church planner's life. Cody, I'll let you listen first this time so you can get an idea of what it is. So Ryan, tell me about your week. How have you been, dude?
I've been doing good. For just I don't remember if we talked about it last week, but on Sunday we went around, did door hangers around Trevor's neighborhood where we're going to plant one of our first house churches. That was fun. Took us about an hour to go around the neighborhood and basically hung out some door hangers, introduced ourselves to some people out in their driveway, saying a quick little prayer while we're doing it, like, God protect this house, and it was good.
Yeah, that's good, man. how's the wife and kids? They're out in Missouri for a couple more months maybe, so
yeah, they're doing good. I haven't got a chance to talk to them in a couple days. I was trying to talk to them this afternoon, but the kids were kind of in a mood, as they say. So I haven't talked to them in a while, but and I miss them a lot, but we know that this is where they need to be right now. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, Cody, what's up with you? What's good? What's bad? What's going on?
So I'll follow Ryan's model and take a look at this week. This week has Been interesting. It's been different. We had a church service on Sunday. We're gathering online only. So where you see me sitting has been our backdrop for the past month or so for online church. It's been fun. So Sunday was good. Lots and lots and lots of technical difficulties, of course, but we got through them. It was a good service. And then this week, this coming Sunday, I have one of my associate pastors who will be preaching. This will be his first time preaching.
Awesome.
So I've been walking through with him of getting prepared, and he's getting ready to get that all put together. And then next week, actually, I'm taking a vacation.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's exciting. I have
Not allowed.
it really isn't allowed. And I don't think I've taken a vacation, like a full week vacation from everything. I think it's been a good 4 to 5 years since we've taken we've taken little weekend retreats or mini vacations where we'll go from a Friday to a Monday, but this will be a full, and I can't really call it a vacation, it's more of a staycation. And so I have another associate pastor preaching next week as well. So I'm taking a full hands off, but that means this week was a lot of prep work to make sure that next week is going to happen. And I'm taking a full vacation from ministry, full vacation. I'm in school right now, so I'm doing all my extra work for next week, this week, taking full vacation from day jobs. So getting all that stuff done. So it's been a busy week as we have been preparing for that, but it's also been kind of relaxing and nice and getting a chance to talk to different people and do what I call congregational care. And so checking in on our people, seeing how they're doing. So it's been a good week. Challenges with kids as always. Having 2 girls at home that fight for attention, and they're at home. We've been homeschooling them this year, and so my wife is doing a phenomenal job with that. But those kids, they are kids, but they're great.
That's awesome, man. Well, if you're watching or listening, pray for Cody and Amy and the family. Let them hear your prayers and let them know. Go rest. Don't answer your phone.
Where are you going, Cody?
We are going
from the living room to the bedroom.
Exactly. We're going to be home for a few days. We'll probably go up to Prescott. We have a cabin up there for a few days. Nice. Maybe go do a trip to Arizona or something.
There you go. That's awesome.
So nothing really planned.
No.
Those are the best vacations. Like 100%. Whenever I would go on vacations with my family, my dad, he's such a planner. We would we're doing this, and it would get so stressful in the vacation that you're need a vacation from your vacation. So I feel that. That's good, man. Mm-hmm. Well, it's been an interesting now 3 weeks of unemployment. Again, I say that every time, but I've just been doing full-time table stuff, which has been awesome. At the same time, I've been taking some high quality time off. I'm a big nerd. I applied to play in a StarCraft 2 tournament this week. And so I played a lot of StarCraft and got my butt kicked. So if you guys don't know what StarCraft is, just Google it. I can't describe it in a short amount of time, but it's a lot of fun.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. But I officially got responses from Gilbert Dispatch. So that is awesome news. Thank you all for your prayers. Next Tuesday, I start the backgrounding process that can take up to 8 weeks. I want to be the first person to finish it in under 6. That's my goal. If I can finish it, it doesn't matter if you finish it, doesn't mean you get a job. That's what's scary about it. It's you can do the whole thing and then they can say, yeah, you're not the fit, or there's this, that, or the other.
That's
so
lame,
hopefully,
man.
Tell me about it. So it's good, bad, but I'm confident. My record's pretty clean. I've been pulled over twice in my entire life. One, I was speeding because I was late for curfew and I cried, and the police officer let me off because he's like, I feel like your parents are going to get you way worse than I could ever get
surprise me.
I was 16. I mean, I was freaking out because I knew my dad was going to be so mad. And then the second time I was texting on the side of the road. I hadn't even driven over yet. I was still parked, and the guy pulled me over, or pulled behind me, and was like, have you been drinking tonight? I said, no, why would I? I go to I was at MNU, Mid-American Nazarene. I was like, why would I be drinking? I go to a Christian college. He goes, well, Kansas State or KU just won the basketball game. I said, I don't care, man. I have an Arizona license plate. I don't care. So hopefully that's it. That's
you ever been, my wife was pulled over in a parking lot. It was fun.
He's like, what are you doing here, kids? Suspicious?
I
That's
was teaching her. I
awesome.
was teaching her how to drive stick,
Oh man.
and the cop literally like pulled us over in a parking lot and was like, basically like, we've had a lot of break-ins around here. Just want to see what you guys are doing.
That's too funny. Well, we're breaking in the clutch is what we're doing, officer. Well, good. Well, it's good to hear that you guys are doing well. Cody, I hope that you have a good vacation. That's
Thank you.
I feel that. I'm excited for actually this coming weekend. So if you're listening to this before the 22nd, or I guess it's on the 22nd, know that the people of the table are going away for a retreat. If you're listening to this after, we've already retreated, but I'm stoked. We're going to Prescott. It's supposed to snow the whole time. And I told Ryan, I said, Ryan, you have to preach because I want to sit and listen. So I guess I'm taking him on a vacation as well.
There
So.
we go.
I should probably get on that, huh?
Maybe. I have faith. I have faith. We talked about it this afternoon. You humble yourself. All right. Let's jump into it. So today we have Cody on for the specific reason of talking about his church plant. So like he said, he's planting a church called Restoration Church of the Nazarene, Restoration Church.
We'll run with it.
Cool.
Whatever you want to call it.
Restoration Church in Peoria, which is West Valley. So it's the opposite direction of where we're at, which is half the reason we're meeting on Zoom, because we live like 90 miles from each other, right? Something like that. That's what it feels like. And because COVID is crazy, this is the smart thing to do. Yeah. But tell me, Cody, why in the world did you want to plant a church, for one? And then two, so point A, B, or point 1B, why did you keep planting in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, those are good questions.
Yeah.
So I'll clarify here. So Restoration Nazarene Church is what we go by, and we're in Surprise, Arizona.
Did I say Peoria?
You did, which is even farther west than
man,
Peoria.
I'm sorry,
but that's okay. That's not a problem. Those that are listening probably have no idea what the difference is. You really don't unless you've been out to the West Valley and know like, oh, wow, this is very vast.
Yeah.
So why church planting? I'll try and keep this story short, but no promises. Church planting, I guess we could say God called me. He planted the seed, but for me, it looked a little different. And so I had never saw myself as a pastor. I never saw myself into ministry. I'm financial planning, investments, finances, money, accounting, like that. That's my life as business, or was anyway. And so we were going to be rich. My wife was finishing up her master's degree in marriage and family counseling. So she was going to be a counselor. I was going to be an investment guru, and we were going to live the great life, retire at 45 with $10 million. You know, that's what we were just dreaming anyway.
Yeah.
But then God interrupted. He came by and he kind of interrupted our reality in a good way, kind of shook us up a little bit. And so it was a long period of God calling me into ministry. And part of that, I remember the day that he called me to plant a church, and I was actually sitting in a service. And so we had a worship set that my wife and I were actually leading. So we led the worship. We came back to sit down, and my mind was everywhere. I wasn't paying attention to, there was a missionary up there speaking, and I had no idea who it was, what they were saying. And I remember sitting in the chair, actually at Oro Valley, your old stomping grounds. Yeah. And so we were sitting in the chair, and I remember feeling this presence that it felt like somebody sat on top of me. Like you've had somebody sitting on top of you, like, I can't breathe. Yep. That's exactly what it was like. This presence sat on top of me. And then something happened that was so difficult for me to explain. And in that time frame, the best way that I could articulate it was that it felt like a text message had hit my soul. And in an instant, I knew what the entire message was. And it says, you're going to plant a church. And I said, no. And it hit me again. You're going to plant a church. And I said, no. And it hit me again. You're going to plant a church. And I said, maybe. And then the feeling lifted. And years, if I fast forward some time, I was reading through Isaiah, and Isaiah, the prophet, uses the language of the word of the Lord fell upon me. And that has now been my new language of that text message that I felt. That was the word of the Lord that fell upon me, planted that seed of you're going to plant a church. And so from that moment, I had always known this is the direction. And that happened actually before I fully accepted my call into ministry. And so it was this big struggle back and forth. And then finally, when I said, okay, God, yes, I'm yours, I will step into this ministry position, whatever that looks like. It has always been, you're going to plant a church, you're going to start, and then went through the phases of what does that mean? What does that look like? Where do we go? And that was, so that was 2016 is when that call came. 2017 is when I said yes to being in ministry in general. And then 2019 is when we said, okay, let's start.
Yeah.
And so it was summer of 2019 when we started the beginning phases of planning, of dreaming, of figuring all this out. And we had this great master plan. I mean, I'm a planner. That's my profession, is being a planner. And I had this master plan put together, and it involved two amazing phases of this pre-launch and this post-launch. And the pre-launch was going to start in February, which it did. And it was great. You know, we had a great turnout to that first service. We had 62 people at this service. And of those 62 people, kind of, and I'm going to start rambling here, but part of our goal as a church, our vision was to reach the unchurched, to reach those that were not part of the church or that were hurting and broken, hence our name Restoration. Mm-hmm. And of those 62 people that came, 12 of those were all completely had hardly ever set foot inside of a church. So we marked those down as all of our unchurched that came. And we were feeling really good. And then boom, COVID happened. And then we said, what do we do now? All of our plans are gone out the window. What do we do? Where do we go? So why did I continue? I don't have any idea, other than it's all I knew what to do. I mean, it was so strong of a calling that said God said, you're going to plant this church. And I knew so strongly that I had to plant in Surprise. And I knew so strongly that we had to plant in February and start. And I have to imagine that God knew that COVID was going to happen, but yet provided through that. And it was a difficult journey at first. But through that journey, through that time of, I mean, it's really still going on. We're meeting online at the moment still again. But throughout this time, we've seen people come to Christ. We have had baptisms. We've had people return to church after being hurt. And so God's still used. So why do I continue? I guess I could be crazy. I keep telling myself that I trust in God, but ultimately I'm just moving forward, and we're going to figure it out as we go.
Amen. That's so good, man. That's so good.
That's great. What was that like? Like when you were like, okay, I have all these plans. Because I remember we had talked before your launch. I was one of those 62. So
yeah, you were. Yeah.
And my kids. So
yeah, there we go. 3 of the 62 will be all of us.
And then, so how was that like shifting, pivoting, throwing the plan out the window, starting over?
Yeah, it was interesting. So the original pre-launch plan, and I guess I should state here, because there's all kinds of different church models. And so part of planting a church is figuring out how are you going to do it. I mean, we all have the same goal of spreading the gospel message, of reaching people, of spiritual growth, but the way that we do it is kind of different. And so our plan, our strategy has been in what you all are doing is phenomenal, kind of the missional movement, and getting through how are we going to do this. And so our plan was to kind of be the best of both, to still maintain some of the traditional contemporary. By traditional, I mean gathering in a place for corporate worship on a weekly basis, but then also looking at ways that we can be outside of the walls and doing that. So that was our plan, was always to be the middle ground of both of those, bridge them together. But that plan started with gathering together on a monthly basis for corporate worship. And the whole purpose was just to build our team, build our launch team over a 6-month period. That was our primary focus. And what we found is that we couldn't do that because we couldn't gather together. So we still held our monthly worship service, but it was online. It wasn't the same thing. We couldn't do all of the barbecues that we had planned on, all the outreach events that we had planned during the year. And so we pivoted and switched to online. Our associate pastor, Jeff Roediger, I think you both know him. he kind of leads our whole digital platform, and he had a full plan of, hey, once we launch in August, here's the full plan of what digital is going to look like. And so we spoke, and like, everything hit, and I said, hey, can we just turn that on now instead of in August? And he goes, sure. So we went for it and just started. And so we turned into this digital platform, and then it was this combination of, okay, now we have all these people online, and how do we connect with them, how do we care for them? And that was so difficult to walk through. And I was still like, I hadn't had much experience as a pastor in general, let alone a lead pastor, and now we have to make all these decisions. It was not easy. I feel like I lost a lot of hair and went through a lot of different phases of life. And
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys had already, because Ryan and I, in talking about the table, we were like, we want to go digital. We want to change the way that churches do church and use, digital means. And we were talking about this, pre 2020. And it's interesting that, you guys are already in that same track of mind.
Yeah.
The more I kind of like look back and see the year as it came and went, there are instances where God was totally in control no matter what. Yeah, it was horrible. It still is horrible. I've lost some friends because of COVID, and it's been brutal, but God is still sovereign, and he knows, he knows what's coming, and I think he prepares us in a way. It's wonderful. It's awesome news that like Jeff had this whole plan for you, and it's just like, no, that's how it's now, Jeff. It's now, not like, don't put your feet down. Let's get to work, man. And if you guys haven't, plug like your socials and your website real fast so people can like head on over and look at Restoration.
Yeah, at Arnaz Church. There you go. At Arnaz Church, RNAZ Church. You'll find us. Any social you want to find us at Arnaz Church, or online is just arnaz.church. Easy enough. Go to our website. You'll find us.
Love it. That way you guys can go check out what they've been doing. It's some good stuff. So throughout all of that craziness and all the, horrible, all your plans basically out the window, and you're trying to figure it out, you had mentioned like God was still doing some crazy things. Tell me like one or two, or you don't have to cap it at two, but like tell me a couple of the things that have just like done your heart good in the middle of all of this insanity of 2020 and COVID,
Sure.
Tell us all the stories.
All the stories. We'll be here a while. No, I won't take that long. So it's an interesting question, because back in December, I was going through a rather rough time. So it was beginning of December. It had been several months, and some context here. So it's kind of fun to say that in the matter of 7 months, we had a pre-launch. We still moved forward with our full launch in August, but we were still online only. So then we did go back in person in October, and we called that our grand reopening. And so in the matter of 7 months, we had a pre-launch, a full launch, and a grand reopening all within like the same time frame. And what I found is kind of on the struggle side is I found myself being challenged, stretched or really convicted, I guess I would say, in that when we went online, I had all these plans, and what typically happens when plans don't work is that you fall back on what you know, and you start moving forward with what you know. You get back into your habits, your routines. This is what I know. This is what I'm good at. And I found myself doing the same thing. But then you add in COVID, and then I found myself comparing to other churches, comparing to other churches our size, bigger churches. What are they doing? What can we do? How many views do they have versus us? How many lives are they impacting versus us? And I found myself in this model, and we really wanted to be, part of planting a church and building a church is evangelism. It's reaching out. You start with zero. You have 0 people other than yourself and your spouse, and you have to grow it. You can't be a church without people. Yeah. And so you have to grow it, whatever that looks like. And so fast forward to November, December timeframe, I was going through this rut, is the word that I'm going to use, of praying and thinking through what have you done, God? Like, why did you call us to do this? What am I doing as a pastor? Am I making a difference? And I went back and I just started reading through all of the stuff that we had planned, like put down that didn't work. But I went back to the mindset of a year ago, the previous November, of my mind frame of all the praying and the planning that went into it. And it was just a lot of like, okay, God, what are you doing? This is what you're calling us to do. And what I realized is I went back and I realized that our vision was to bring hope, to bring the restorative message of Jesus Christ to the hurting and the broken. And we really wanted to be a church that reached those that were not already part of a church. I didn't want to take 10 people from this church, 10 people from this church, 10 from here, form together and have this net zero gain. I really wanted to build the kingdom. And so that was our goal. And so we started off in January of the year with 3 couples. That was it. It was just the 3 couples. And from then I was reminded that of all the people that we have now, I think we have, I don't even know how many people we have at this moment. Let's call it like 10 to 15 couples, roughly speaking. And so when we started with the 3, we had grown and added 4 additional couples. And those 4 additional couples were all unchurched.
Wow.
And so I was just reminded, like, hey, we did do this. We had 4 families come. Some of those gave their life to Christ that year. Some of those were baptized. Some of those were deeply hurt from the church several years ago that have come back. Some of those, it was their very first time ever coming to a church and experience what a Christian community looked like. And then I was reminded of, okay, well, what did we do? We shut down, but instead of just doing that, we found ways to do outreach. And so we did this cards of encouragement where we wrote cards for local hospitals. We delivered over 1,000 cards during the summer. And that was just all like people, part of our congregation, not a part of our congregation, heard about what we were doing. They were writing cards, delivering them at my door. I still have the basket outside of our door. I don't know why it's still out there, but we left it out there. People were dropping it there. We'd let it sit for like 72 hours. Then we would take it in little baggies. We deliver it to the hospital. We gave them masks. We had somebody sew a bunch of masks together because the hospital's like, we're tired of these little elastic things. So we delivered them. So we were still doing ministry and God was still moving, but it took me like reevaluating to see that. And he kind of called me out and said, hey, you don't have to be what you picture a church planter to be. You don't have to be a pastor that you picture. Be you. I've called you. I've equipped you to be you. So be you.
That's good.
And that was kind of an eye-opening experience of, oh, okay, yeah, let's do it.
I love that. That's so good. I think we're in that same boat of looking at the future with, wanting to gather together with new people that are, people are never been a part of a church, or they're done with church, or, they've been hurt by it. And so what strategies have you used? Because I think one of the things that new church planners or people who are planting a church right now might be asking themselves, I want to reach new people. Like, I want to get the word out. I don't just want to, swap sheep here. What did you do, or what did your team do, Cody, to find those new people and to bring them into your community? Is there some secret sauce that you put on like the chicken sandwiches on Sundays, or do you have to love them like Jesus called us to? I don't know.
The Lord's Chicken is closed on Sundays.
That's what I'm saying. You buy the sandwiches Saturday night, obviously, and then you have to put your own secret sauce on it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll share the secret sauce. At the same time that I'm going to share the secret sauce, Ryan said that my mic is rubbing, so I'm going to fix my mic. And at the same time that I'm fixing my mic, I will share this.
For those of you who are not watching on YouTube, Cody is just going on about the secret sauce right now. That's moving.
It. Oh. That is the key to success. If you want to grow, you have no idea.
Oh man, that is so good. That is so good.
I love the visual gag for the audio medium.
Yes, that's good. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. What was the question?
So what did you guys do that maybe is different, or how are you reaching non-Christian people? What are you doing to engage them? Because I'm thinking in the mindset of, I've been pastoring for 7-8 years now, and I'm really good at retaining church kids. I've been a youth pastor for 7.5-8 years, and I'm really good at retaining kids who are Christians or have some faith background. But I'm guilty. I hate talking to Mark Bain. You know, he's kind of like our district, like the global church plant guy, because he's like so good at evangelism and talking to people, and it like makes me feel guilty. And so like I'm looking at the future at the table going, I'm super excited about it. We're going to reach new people. And then it hits me, how am I going to reach new people? You're doing it, Cody. So how? What are you guys doing that you're reaching new people?
I'm probably gonna get coffee with Mark in a couple of months, so I'm gonna tell him that.
Good. You should. Dude, I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of him. Sorry. I'm sending this to Mark. I will send this to him.
Me too. And I want to state that I'm not an evangelist. And that's something that I've had to overcome is I'm not a Mark Bain. But I had wanted to do that strategy of, just be where the people are and have conversations. And it's so difficult. I'm an introvert, like really like hardcore introvert. So that is extremely difficult.
I'm laughing because that's not shocking.
Yeah, exactly. You know me. I'm a thinker. I can think all day long, but communicating, I'd rather listen. But there's something about preaching. I don't get it. So what are we doing? I'm going to put this in two ways. Number one is find what you're good at.
Mm.
And you will find that what you're good at is often different than other people, which means that if you take that, like what you are good at as a person and what you like as a person is often different than somebody else. Even though you may share similar interests, you have different skills, different skill levels. So now apply that to church. Think of the church as a moving organism. Yeah, that works. That the church body, the local church body, has something that they are good at, something that they are like, and it's different than this church. So every local church has its own aspect or its own qualities, its own equipping and calling and goal in life. And so you find what you're good at and you do that. You don't try to copy, because nobody needs a copycat, especially in the world that we are now. How many people like really want to check out a new church when they have the ability from the comfort of their home to check out this mega church that is doing it 10 times better, probably 100 times better, with 100,000 more dollars put into a single camera than I have in my entire setup. So how can I compete to have a worship service like them? You can't. And so what can we do that is something different? And so that was the first thing, is to find that. For us, that was music this past year. For us, that was music. And it was, and this was kind of within our local context, within the area. And so what we had found is that what everybody was doing was it was this come watch. There was this disconnect. Everybody was on their computers, and sure, you could comment through comments or whatever, but it's different. There was this disconnect. You're missing the fellowship. And so this was actually my wife's idea. My wife is our worship leader. And what we had started doing was, on a weekly basis, we did a special night of worship. But the night of worship was not just a typical like night of worship that you would think of. If you've grown up in the church, which I did not, but if you grew up in the church, are you familiar with hymn sings, like the old school? Everybody's got a hymnal and you just shout out around a number and the pianist starts playing and you just sing it. We did that through contemporary worship, where we said, hey, we've got our computers here. What song do you want to worship with us? Throw it in the chat. People would throw it out there, and then we would get it. Like, we had our computer there, and we would just quickly look it up, and we would just play it and sing it and worship together. And so it was this like contemporary hymn sing, and it was phenomenal. That was the way that we were reaching people that were disconnected. That led on to people sharing it with their friends that were unchurched. And so people started coming through this non-threatening. It was very laid back. It wasn't professional. It was a lot of it, it was us like, I don't know what key to do this in. Like, we're both musicians. We just kind of guessed. There were some times where we started and it was way too high and we just stop and we go down, or we start going and we have no idea how to play. Like, we can't find the chords or lyrics anywhere. And so we're just making it up as we go. But we were having fun and connecting with people. And so that's kind of what we did as a church. And then as individuals, it's all about presence and being And it's very hard when you're not around a lot of people. I work a full-time job, but I've been at home since March, since everything shut down, which has been phenomenal. But now I'm not around all of the non-Christians that I used to be. So at work, it was super easy because it was hard for me to find another Christian. Everybody that I worked around was non-Christians. I mean, we're talking money, business. And so it was easy for me to have conversations with them. And I knew what was going on with their struggles. And that translated back to, okay, what can we do around our neighbors? And so it's just a matter of how are we living every moment? And I preached this past Sunday about how can we focus on God every moment of our life, every moment of our day. And the big phrase that I kept saying is that God's presence is in the present. It's in the here and now. And we have to find ways to invite God's presence into our presence. And as people watch you throughout the week, do they see something different in your life than they do their own life? Because oftentimes they don't. And what's attractive about the gospel is the resurrection, the power, the joy, and your life should look different. And so me, who doesn't like to speak with people, I show it through my actions of living differently every day. And if I can share just a really quick story of that. So it wasn't too long ago that I want to say like a few months ago, I was working at home, and my neighbor, who I had never spoken to before, just a couple of waves here and there, never spoke to. I didn't even know her name, knew nothing about her. She comes over frantic and is saying that she needs help. All of the smoke alarms are going off in her house. Dogs are going crazy. She can't figure it out. Turns out her husband is in a coma. So she's been like dealing with all of that. That same morning, her husband was about to go into this crazy risky surgery of, it was like a 10% chance that he would survive, but it was the only thing that they could do to get him out of this coma. So she was just all over the place and was like, hey, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And so I walked over there basically in my pajamas, and fixed all of the smoke alarms and just had a conversation and just talked through, prayed through. And she was walking through and she's like, yeah, I know you're a Christian. And I said, oh, you do? How do you know that? She goes, I don't know. I just do. And so that's why I trust you. And she said, like, I need to go to the store and do this. Like, just, can you continue fixing this? And I was like, you want me to stay in your house, like by myself? And she's, yeah, like, if you don't feel that that's awkward. I was like, I mean, I guess not. She goes, I trust you, like, go do this. But it was an example. And her husband came out of that. Like, I was texting everybody like, hey, let's join together and pray. He survived the surgery. I call him Miracle Mike. And so it's another opportunity, but it was all about being present, living a life that is different, that is set apart. And I think that's how you reach people, is not through words, but through actions, through a lifestyle.
That's so good. Well, if you're a church planner or you're thinking about it, literally borrow that. We don't steal here. We just borrow everything. As you were talking, I like literally was just thinking, you're just doing what the Bible says. Like in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, starting at verse 12, it's one body, many parts, right?
Exactly.
And so we could totally look and be like, oh, I want to be the eyes, I want to be the mouth, when we could simply just be the hands, right? And like in each of our church plants and what we're doing when God is calling us to do things, I think you said it, you nailed it, man. Stop trying to compare and do what the mega churches are doing, or what, like, your sending church. I think of, man, there are some great things that Mesa and Tempe are doing and will continue to do that the table can't. We just can't replicate what our sending churches are doing, or even, like you said, my old stomping grounds, Oro Valley. Man, they just got it together there on the tech side. But what can we do that, and it might just be showing up in the midst of our communities and our literal neighborhoods, and saying, like you just said in your story, like, I'm willing to step out of my comfort zone to go help my neighbor. And I mean, what a story. Miracle Mike, like, coming together, fire alarms were taking care of the dogs. Like, the fact that people look at you and they say, I know you're a Christian. What have I done? What have I said? I don't have the bumper stickers.
Nope.
So what are you talking about? Like, simply by the way that you are, the way that you live. Like, what if we all just did that a little bit better? I love it, man. That's so good.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I pulled up, this is kind of backtracking a lot, but I pulled up the church planting models from the General Church of the Nazarene. There's a whole bunch more
I've
than I
never
said.
seen these. Yeah.
So I'll send that to us later, and I'll actually put a link in our bio for Anchor and all the other podcasting apps, as well as YouTube if you're watching that. But there are so many. There's missional communities,
Like
which is
12, right?
it's crazy. Missional communities, micro churches, dinner churches, high impact churches,
I like these.
sports churches, multi-site, church within a church. That one's I don't know what that one is. That sounds pretty
Multi-congregational or
wide.
You have
I
a
guess,
you have a
maybe.
Russian doll situation. I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
Right.
Traditional churches, house and organic churches, thrift store churches. That's a thing. Cowboy churches. We do have a cowboy church on this district. I love it. Compassionate churches, coffee shop, and prison churches. So there's a whole big thing. I'll put that link down below if you guys want to check out. You can click onto each of those, but it's pretty cool to see what we're doing as an entire district. And so, Cody, you're planting within the Arizona Nazarene district like we are, just on the other side of the world. But what is exciting and kind of, I think Ryan and I have been looking up to you throughout this process that we're going through it. You're, I guess we're both kind of it. Like you're the alpha, we're the beta in this scenario. You know, we're version 2, you're version 1.
I think we're drafting off of Cody.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, your ministry plan was like so good. We took it and we just put the table on it, and the district, I mean, I'm just kidding. No,
That's fine.
but Doug gave you so many compliments talking about how organized you were and, you know, got it all together. But, you know, there are other church plants on our district, of course, but it's like the church is really starting to formulate this really solid model that, Cody, you're kind of helping design, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. They call me the guinea pig. They're testing things out.
Yeah. Well, so what is, I mean,
Guinea pigs those are valuable calories in lots of areas of the world.
South America, all of those places.
So, I don't know what that says about you.
But what if somebody's listening that is not a part of a denomination, and I'm not saying that the Nazarene Church is the best denomination here. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
we legally have to say that.
We do. Okay, it's in the contract. Cody drafted it. He made it. We just had to sign it. But for someone who's trying to plant a church and they're thinking, man, we're just going to get me and my 7 best friends, we're going to do this. You can absolutely do that. There's plenty of church plants around the entire world that just start because people are faithful to calling that God has in their hearts, which I think we're all doing. And Ryan and I have said this to each other, like the table could happen with or without the Nazarene Church. We're working with the Nazarene Church because we believe in it, because we love the support. It's a 2-way relationship. It's not just us relying on them and vice versa. But in this idea of we're kind of these guinea pigs, especially you, Cody, why in the world should a new church planter choose to plant with a district or denomination?
Yeah, I'm going to say support is probably the biggest one. So, and you're absolutely right. Anybody can do. I mean, Matthew states that where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am. And that's a church. A church is a body of people, a group of people. But I'm not going to go there. So why should somebody join a network? Think of it as, I was thinking of a really cool analogy and it just completely escaped my mind. But where I'm going to go is, so let's talk about business aspects.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a business person. And so when it comes to planting a church, and a church you could think of as, hey, we are just a group of people that love Jesus and that want other people to love Jesus. And so we're going to do things to be the gospel or share the gospel or whatever that's going to look like. And you could just simply do that out of your house. But unfortunately, the culture that we live in, it doesn't allow you to necessarily operate that way. For example, you all are going to have house churches, so several little places set up. So what happens if somebody walks into your house and trips over a toy that your child left everywhere and falls and breaks their arm? It doesn't matter who this individual is, doesn't matter your relationship, but now you have this tension of whose fault was it? and liability. If you know where I'm going into
Yep.
like liability. And so as a church, you have to be prepared for those things, which sounds so weird to think about, but and a lot of people don't trust the church. A lot of people take advantage of the church, and they're looking for different ways to take advantage of the church. You think about people. There's a song by Brad Paisley where he sings about Chick-fil-A and how they slip outside of the Chick-fil-A, and then Chick-fil-A pays them $1 million or whatever, and now they eat Chick-fil-A sandwiches for free for the rest of their life. But it's that concept of that's the culture that we live in. And so as a church plant, there's a lot of legal things that you don't think about that you have to have. You have to have like a trademark for your logo. You have to have a trade name for your name. You have to have this liability insurance. You also shared on your podcast that in order to rent a Ramada, you had to have X million in liability insurance. And that's the world that we live in. And so when you go to do it on your own, it's lonely. You're out on your own. You have no idea what you're doing. And so you have to get all of that on your own. But now it's who's like, how do you do this? It's like starting a business, and one wrong move or wrong, false, whatever language you want to use, that can throw it all away, that can strip it away. And so being part of a denomination offers that support, offers that structure, offers that safety, but it also offers you the ability as a church planter to have mentors, to have support, emotional support. We have a structure to fall on. You don't have to make all the decisions on your own. You can lean on someone. They can help develop and grow you. You could potentially find financial support. So that where I'm going with this is support. You don't have to do it on your own. They'll help you think through things that you don't know that you need to think through. That's kind of where I would go with the answer.
Yeah, I think we've had those conversations about insurance and liability. That was like actually one of the first things that
Well, it was in
somebody
our
brought to our
core
attention.
meeting. They were like, "What about insurance? Like, what do we need to do?" And so, within the first like month, we'd asked the district office, like, "What do we do? Like, if it's in the house, what do we do?" And
Right.
basically, they're like, "You're fine as long as you don't have an ungated pool." We're like, "Oh, really?" Like, "Yeah, we'll cover you." I'm like, "Cool."
Yeah, the pool was the line not to cross.
Yep.
I don't know if we have anybody in our core team right now that has a pool. So
Yeah, I got the community pool, but I don't think so. I don't think there's anybody. I was thinking on when you said, the support already. I think I shared this in the previous episode, but we had a man call our church on our brand new phone line, and like, we're not established yet. We don't really have a budget at that point in time. We literally didn't have money to access. And so I just took my credit card and said, "Yeah, I'll buy you some food." But it was great because I was like right here on Google, 2 miles east, northeast of where we're at right now, is a Nazarene church, is a church that is affiliated with us, that we trust. I know the pastor, Scott. And I texted Scott that night, like 9-10 o'clock in the evening. I said, "Heads up, Scott, this guy might come to your church." I told him that you're cool, so be cool. No, I told him, like, heads up, like, hey, we couldn't help him as much as I wanted to, but I love that there are, just in the East Valley, there's like 11 churches, something like that. In the entire district, there's over 60 of us that are interconnected. And one of the things that I've done and relied on in my life, when I was driving from Tucson to Kansas, I went to school in the middle of Kansas. I think, was it a breakdown? No, it wasn't a breakdown. I was like maybe out of gas or something. I think it was either Albuquerque or Texas. And I was like 6 miles from Nazarene Church. I don't know exactly. This is like 2011. But like, I showed up at the church. I was like, "Can you guys help me?" And they did. I was like, "I go to Mid-American Nazarene. I'm a little pastor's kid." And it was, I mean, that's, if you don't plant necessarily within a denomination, my advice, I guess, would be like, you got to have that mother church that sends you and that you can turn to and rely on, because there are those questions that you just won't think of and it'll happen. And then you're just out of luck. Like, you didn't prepare.
yeah.
And that's hard, and I mean, by no means I don't think any of us have this thing figured out. We're doing it. We're just doing it. But don't let any of it stop you. Do what God's calling you to do,
And I think for us, Cody's been a big resource.
Yeah.
We've asked him a lot of questions, and
G Suite, man.
it's-
Dude, we did not understand how to do that.
Hey, yeah.
Thank you, Cody.
Or
We're still not there. We didn't do it yet, but like we know more what to do now.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
yeah, we've learned a lot from each other. So yeah, just having somebody you can ask ideas, somebody who's been in the trenches, as they say.
Yeah.
That's a great resource to have that you just can't get. If you don't know anybody, if you're not talking to anybody. And then also, like, I feel like it's kind of just dangerous. Like, you could start a cult. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's definitely that. Well, even and presenting kind of this initial model idea, talking to some older gentlemen in our denomination were talking to me about like, I don't know if I would do that. Like that's where heresy starts. I was like, where does it start? Like in the house. That's where heresy starts. I'm like, thanks for your opinion. But yeah, I figured out after a longer conversation what they meant by that, but we were not on the same page, just to say the least. But so not to keep anyone too much longer, because I might all turn to pumpkins if this keeps going, because it is late. What are you excited for in 2021, Cody? What are some exciting, fun, new, crazy? Maybe it's just like, it's not going to be crazy. It's going to be normal. And that's what I'm excited for. But what are you stoked and ready for restoration and your church plan, man?
I'm excited to do. That's what I'm going to say is do. So this past year has been a lot of figuring things out. And so we are in a stage and we're going through a sermon series right now, Rise, Build and Rise. We're walking through Nehemiah. Who walks through Nehemiah? I don't know. But we decided to do that. And what we're doing is it's a combination of going through different teachings, but then also finding different ways to interact throughout the week. And we're planning on going back in person, hopefully within the next month or so. And there's some big potential changes coming that I can't share yet, but some exciting things that we think are going to help us make a better impact in the community, build the congregation a little bit more so that we can do more. And so what am I excited about is doing I've been caught on these two big words that you'll probably see more if you're following us on socials or anything, that we're going to start branding a lot more of, is be and share. Be and share, be the gospel, share the gospel, find ways on a monthly, a weekly, a daily basis to be the gospel, being not just speaking it, but finding ways to be it, to live it, to share. At the moment we are doing something that I can't remember, something like Hope for Heroes, where it's another way that we are writing cards of encouragement for different heroes in our lives. And so our congregation members are participating in that on a more personal level. And that's being the gospel, helping people out, like you mentioned, of taking somebody out to lunch or coffee or helping those in need. Being the gospel with no strings attached. We're not inviting you to church. We're not telling you about our church. We're just simply being. We're meeting in a school, and in December we did a nacho bar for the teachers.
Nice.
So we set up, they put us in their teacher lounge, and we had nachos. We were there for like 3 hours, and people just came through and got nachos. Again, we were not there to share who we are. It was just a simple thank you. We are just saying thank you for your hospitality, for letting us be here, for putting up with our madness. And so finding ways to be, and then finding ways to strategically share the gospel. And I have some cool ideas of how we're going to do that. But this year is all going to be about formation, all about building, all about challenging people, challenging myself. I've been deeply convicted of different ways that I can grow on a daily basis, on how I can be the gospel better, how I can share the gospel better, and how can we as a church reach out to the community and do more. And so we're hoping that COVID will ease up with vaccines to allow us to do more safely while we're still caring and loving for one another. So what am I excited about? Doing, being, and sharing.
Love it. Love it. Ryan, we've got a lot on our plate, but what are you excited for, man? What's new for the table for you personally? What are you excited for?
Well, for this year, I mean, obviously I'm excited to launch. For us, we got coming up this weekend, we got our retreat, which is going to be good. We're going through a book
Mine's in the kitchen. The Art of Neighboring.
Yeah, The Art of Neighboring. It's a good book. It was suggested to me over coffee a couple months ago by another church planter in our district, Jad. And yeah, we're going through what does it mean for us to be good neighbors? What does it mean for us to, yeah, kind of like what Cody said, to be the gospel just amongst the people that we live on the same street with or
Yep.
living in the same neighborhood with. And then in a couple of weeks, we have our first launch team meeting,
Yep.
which we're hoping to. Basically, this is the first time where we're really expanding our core team, and we're moving into the kind of the next tier. We're gonna do that digitally, which I don't know.
See how it goes.
Cody gave us good advice a couple weeks ago because we did our first come and see online live event. He said expect 2 people. Expect 2 people live, and if it's more, then you'll be excited.
Absolutely.
We were, because that's what we were expecting, and it far exceeded that.
Hey,
Yeah, so if we get like an extra 5 people, I think I'll be excited.
Yeah. Well, I think, I feel that same way with all the stuff that we're expanding and growing into,
Yeah, and then this weekend we the retreat. I'm excited to do that and work through that material with our group. And what we're really focusing on is just really kind of just training people how to be missional in their neighborhoods. That's what we see. Kind of the way that the table expands is that we just think of every neighborhood that we have a house church in as the mission field, and kind of just start small.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I'm right there with you. And one of the things I've kind of been working on is figuring out sermons for our church and where we're going directionally. And like for a long time, it was like, yeah, we're going to go through Acts because it like makes sense to do a house church and read Acts. Right. And
of course.
it was forced, it was this idea of, no, I'm doing this because like that's what is cliche. And that's what I think I want to do because it made sense. But God has really been moving me in this direction of the book of Samuel in the Old Testament, and kind of expanding there. You get to chapter 3 and it talks about his call.
Yeah.
And it's like, like, okay.
Do we have the breaking news? Like, da, 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 da. Like, this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
I know. Oh no, it's like, because I've been deliberating it, and like, it's the perfect time to announce it, right? Like, I haven't written anything. I've just been like, kind of exploring and reading, and like, really, I think it's finally, when I feel like that this is where you need to be. Like, that's when I go and I think about Samuel and I read through Samuel, like, we'll get to Acts, we'll do it. Like, there's
Samuel's
it's a big
great,
Bible,
man.
but we'll get to it. But
there's
I
a lot
think
of
that's
death
where
in Samuel.
that's exactly why I want to read that. But yeah, and so I'm excited to, if I'm like in a big peek behind a curtain, if I'm completely honest with you who are listening today, and Cody, like, I have not felt like a good pastor for the last year, if not longer. I feel like I'm just not good at the job, like not good at like sermon writing anymore. And just like, I was down. And the Come and See was the first time like I really preached since July of 2019. Like, I taught a few lessons here and there. I had some Bible studies in 2020, but I didn't really preach until the Come and See this January. And I think that was the kick in my pants I needed for God to show me, hey, I got some big things for the table, and you need to get yourself into gear, Trevor. Oh man. Well,
That's hard. I mean, I think any pastor who is honest would say that they don't feel like they're doing a good job sometimes, most of the time.
in the middle of COVID.
Every day.
Yeah, and I think if you think like if you're like a pastor who's just like, oh man, I slay it every day, like probably time to hang it up,
Oh man, I feel that. Well, I appreciate you joining us tonight, Cody, and kind of sharing a little bit about restoration and all the awesome stuff that you guys are doing way out west.
Yeah, man. Well, let's have you come back on.
Yes.
Yeah,
we did. We need that like update video of where, because I want to hear this, like, this secret stuff that you can't share. I want to hear about that,
Yeah, man.
and where you're going.
Stay tuned.
Oh yeah. If you guys again haven't checked it out yet, be sure when you're finished up here, do it right now and come back. Go to Cody's all of his stuff. It's RNAS, right? That's where they can find you on YouTube,
RNAS,
Facebook, Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's
RNAS
rnas.church.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. That's I love the .church now for websites. It's perfect. Go follow him, check out that stuff, see what they're doing. If you're living in Phoenix or the West Valley, or if you want to commute, like that's cool too. Like jump in with them and be a part of that team and watch the kingdom grow. You can always follow us and check out our stuff at the Table Naz on all of our socials. The tablenaz.church is our website. If you want to get plugged in the East Valley, we got the East West here. We need to get Jad on in a future podcast so we can get Central Phoenix. That then three of us or the four of us all jump on together and talk through
Yeah,
the
man.
line of
Let's do it.
church planning. Maybe
He's got a good story too.
I love it. But before we kind of wrap it up, Cody, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Ryan. But any prayer requests? What can we be praying for? What can our viewers be praying for you?
Sure. Me personally, you can pray for rest and balance.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot to lead a church and work full time and go to school and be a dad and a husband. It's a lot to manage, and some days I do it well and some days I fail horribly. And so praying for balance and rest, and you go through the motions and figure things out and take it day by day, but balance and rest I could always use prayer and support for.
Perfect, for sure. Ryan, how can we be praying for you, man?
This is a new thing. I like it. I don't think we've done this before.
I don't think so either, but I mean, I felt led to do it.
Yeah,
the pastoring's coming right back. I'm being good at it again.
I think for this weekend, I think for us to really connect as a group and really kind of share the vision for what we want the table to be. And also we're going to be doing some planning and some prayer. So just pray that that's fruitful as well.
Yeah, for sure. And
then miss my family, miss my wife, miss my kids. They're out of town still. So just pray that everything keeps going okay with that situation. I'm hoping to go out and visit in a couple of weeks, but we'll see.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
And for me, big thing is the job situation, that I can find full employment. At least like I don't even need to make that much money. I just need to make like that bare minimum that gets us by, pays the bills, make sure that we have food on the table. God provides. I mean, he sure does. But basically that, and just the table, everything we're doing. I'm excited. I think we have all experienced like those attacks from Satan. I feel like I've come out of that. I feel more joy and more peace January 21st, 2021, unemployed than I felt for the majority of 2020. And it's a good place to be right now. And so I just pray that continues, that it gets better than it already is. Like it's pretty good right now, but when the attacks come, which they will, that the three of us, that all who are listening will be ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty. Well, it has been a good evening. I need to shower because I have not done that from my workout yet. Cody, I appreciate you joining us. Ryan, thanks for hanging out, looking so crispy
Cody,
and fresh.
Thanks for coming on, Cody. He was nervous.
No. Always
nervous.
I'm always
dude
nervous.
You killed it. I don't
Not
even know
nervous,
what you need to be
but
nervous about.
He didn't know what
I'm an introvert. I'm always
star of the show.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, Cody. We really do appreciate it. And for our like 3 listeners out there,
hey,
we have an audience of estimated 19 people.
All right,
looking at it right now.
All right,
my buddy Tim's been listening. Tim was in my wedding. We haven't seen each other in a long time. It's been at least 10 years, but he's been listening. He just called me this week. He's like, "Hey, I was just listening to you." I was like, "Cool, dude."
Yeah. My friend Jake texted me, did the same thing. Jake, it's good to hear you. Good to see you. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Friends, if you have enjoyed this podcast, share it with all your friends. If you want to check out Cody, Google RNAS on any of the socials on the website, rnas.church. If you want to be a part of the tablenaz.church, table Naz on all the socials. And as always, we appreciate you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, head over to the Anchor app where you can leave a message for us and we can listen to that on the stream and kind of answer your questions or just talk with you for a little bit. Guys, thank you. We just really appreciate you, and we'll be seeing you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.